What are we eating this week? That video starts right now. We're going to make breakfast. It's the first thing we're going to eat this week. Hello family, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Vicki and you're with Grammy in the kitchen. So in case you haven't noticed, I have been cooking a lot of breakfast lately. The husband has changed his working schedule, so he's actually home more for breakfast. So I have to cook breakfast more often. I used to just cook breakfast on the weekend because that was usually when we were both home at the same time during breakfast. But now I cook breakfast about 4 or 5 times a week, which is fine. We're going to make the French toast casserole in a cast iron skillet to put in the oven. But this time I decided I wanted to add some sausage. So I'm heating up the large cast iron skillet on the stove. I'm going to cook one of our homemade 8 ounces of pork sausage. We're going to use some sourdough bread, and we still need to make our egg custard. So in this cast iron skillet, I put about a tablespoon of bacon fat, because I find that my homemade sausage is not as fatty as store-bought sausage, so I do need to add additional fat when I'm cooking it. I'm going to let that sausage brown while we work on the custard. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to need 4 eggs, a quarter cup of milk. I'm going to eyeball it, a pinch of salt, a half teaspoon of cinnamon, 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup of brown sugar, I'm going to set this aside while we're waiting on the sausage. Because we have been cooking breakfast a lot lately, I had to ask the lady that I get my eggs from. I get a dozen of eggs every week when I pick up my gallon of milk. And I asked her if I can have an extra dozen of eggs the second and fourth week of the month. That gives us pretty much a dozen and a half of eggs a week, because we're going through a lot of eggs. The husband's not even taking eggs to work anymore, and we're still going through a lot of eggs. She said, sure, no problem. So instead of getting 4 dozen eggs a month at $6 a dozen, I'm now getting 6. I haven't bought eggs from the grocery store in about 2 months now. I know during the month of December, the farm I get my eggs from, her chickens were not laying eggs. This is the first year since I've been getting eggs from her that they were not laying eggs over the winter. I think it's because we had a colder winter this year than we did last year. So it's been a couple months since I bought eggs. I always ask my kids, because they still buy eggs at the store, and I'm constantly asking them, how much are eggs at the store? And they said it's somewhere between $4 and $8 a dozen. So I think paying $6 a dozen is not that bad. I want to make sure this sausage is done completely, no pink, before I put it in the oven to melt the butter and the brown sugar. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. We'll go ahead and turn the burner off. I did that backwards, family. I put the 1/4 cup of brown sugar in the custard when it was supposed to be just 1 tablespoon and a 1/4 cup in the butter. But that's okay. We're going to move with that. I'm going to add a tablespoon of brown sugar. This pan is nice and hot. But that's the thing about food mistakes. We made a mistake with the brown sugar in the egg custard and the brown sugar that goes in the pan. But guess what? It's still edible. I fed my sourdough starter this morning because I'm going to need to make some more bread. This is the last I have. I'm going to arrange some bread in the bottom of this cast iron skillet on top of the sausage. Just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. Just pour the batter right on top of the bread. We'll smush it down to make sure it gets nice and eggy all over it. And this is going to go in a 325-degree oven for 20 minutes. And that's going to be the perfect amount of time for me to find my island, put everything away, and wash any dishes that we have dirty already. All right, so breakfast is done. So we got French toast baked with some sausage. And we have coffee. It's the same French toast bake I made last week, but this time I have sausage on the bottom. And I'm going to put some maple syrup on mine. The sausage has attached itself to the bread. Looks beautiful on the bottom. Family, this is actually better than last time. Maybe I need to switch the brown sugar, put the 1/4 cup in with the custard and the 1 tablespoon in the pan. That is really good. So the husband and I are going to sit down and have breakfast and coffee. I'll bring you back when we're ready to cook dinner. I'm very happy with this. Okay, family, it's time to cook dinner. So the husband gave us a request. He wanted meatloaf. So I have 2 pounds of organic, grass-fed, grass-finished hamburger into this mixing bowl. Let me go wash my hands. But I want to make a panade. So I have a slice of homemade sourdough bread. You can use any bread of your choice. Does not have to be toasted. You can use store-bought bread, homemade yeast bread, homemade sourdough bread. It doesn't matter. So I just want to break this up into small little pieces. And I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons or 1/8 of a cup of milk. Make sure it's all submerged in that milk. I want the bread to get soft, where we can just break it up into the hamburger and we won't be biting into clumps of bread. All right, set that aside. Back to the 2 pounds of hamburger. I have 1 egg. Just want to break it up a bit. And put a pinch of pepper. A good pinch of salt. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. A teaspoon of onion powder. A teaspoon of garlic powder. Just get in here and break our bread up really well. You know what? I need to turn the oven on. Okay, the oven's preheating to 350 degrees. Now you can put onions, peppers, whatever you like in your meatloaf. The husband's not a fan, so we just don't do it. And I think I have all the bread broken up pretty well. Let's dump that in there. We're going to go in there with our hands. Make sure everything is mixed together very well. Now we're just going to do this until it's mixed without over mixing. That makes your meat tough. All right, that looks good. Let me clean up a bit, get my pan ready. I'll be right back. So I have the regular baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I have my 1 pound bread loaf pan, also with parchment paper with a sling, so it's easy to pull the meatloaf out. I'm using these little magnets just to hold my parchment paper down. So let's go ahead and take our meatloaf mixture, place it inside this loaf pan. And the reason I decided to put it in the bread loaf pan is because the husband decided he wanted to take some meatloaf sandwiches to work instead of his normal peanut butter and jelly or turkey lynching meat. That's why we did it this way. That way to be nice and uniform and easy to slice. So I filled up this pan about halfway. This is going to probably take about an hour in a 350 degree oven. So in about 30 minutes, we're going to check on it. Temperature for ground meat needs to be 160 degrees. So once it reaches 160 degrees internal, we can take it out, let it cool a bit, remove it from the pan, then we can slice into it. I'm undecided if I'm going to make the usual ketchup glaze to go on top or if I'm just going to leave it plain. We have plenty of time to think about that. In a 350 degree oven, we'll check it in 30 minutes. So the other things that we're going to have is macaroni and cheese and baked beans. That's what the husband decided he wanted to have. I'll see y'all in a few. Okay, family, it has been 30 minutes. I know it's not done, but I do want to check the temperature just to see where we're at towards that 160 degrees. We're at 91. We're going to make a ketchup glaze. So I have some organic tomato ketchup. I got this from Lidl's when they had their 10 for 10. We bought 10 of them. I'm going to put about a half a cup in here, and I'm eyeballing it. That looks good. I'm going to put a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I'm going to put a total of 1 teaspoon, and this is a half teaspoon measure, of Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to mix that together. Pour that on top. And I'm going to put that back in the oven for another 30 minutes, and then we'll check the temperature. So I cooked some corkscrew pasta. That was 6 ounces. I have it in the sink draining. We're going to make a sauce. So I'm going to start off with 1 tablespoon of butter, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. We're going to add a pinch of pepper and a pinch of salt, because we're going to make a cheese sauce for macaroni and cheese. I'm going to add 2 cups of milk. And when the milk heats up, we'll add our cheese. So our milk is hot. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit because it's starting to feel like it's scorching on the bottom, and I don't want that. So I have about 1.5 cups of pepper jack cheese. That is my favorite cheese for macaroni and cheese. And I buy my cheese in the 5-pound bricks from Azure Standard. And then when I come home, I just go ahead and shred the whole thing, put them in 2-cup measures in a freezer bag, and I stick them in the freezer. Cheese freezes, thaws, and cooks beautiful. I use shredded cheese on everything. Even when I'm making a grilled cheese sandwich, it gets shredded cheese. I want that cheese to melt completely. Then I'm going to taste it for seasoning. If we have to add salt or pepper. Now this is just sharp cheddar cheese. Same thing, got it from Azure Standard. And I'm going to add about a half a cup. That way I got 2 cups of cheese in here. I do not buy pre-shredded cheese because pre-shredded cheese has an ingredient. It's called cellulose. And cellulose is basically wood pulp. They put that in pre-shredded cheese because cheese wants to go back together and clump. It wants to stick together. So I don't have cellulose. It is just shredded cheese. And if it clumps, I'm okay with that. The ingredients in my food is more important than the convenience. Not quite melted, but I do want to taste it. See if we need to add anything. It doesn't need any salt. We are good. But I do want to add just a little bit more pepper. I'm going to go ahead and add our pasta. This was 6 ounces pasta cooked to an al dente. Cheese is clumping up on me, but I am okay with that. I'm going to put this on a medium-low and just let it sit here for about 30 minutes. Meatloaf is done. It took an extra 10 minutes from that initial 1 hour. So it's 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I think it had to do with the size of the pan because it's pretty dense. We'll take a paring knife. Make sure it's separated on the side that doesn't have parchment paper. Make sure we get all the juices out. And we have meatloaf. See if I can get this paper off. Oh yeah, perfect. I'm gonna let it cool off before I cut into it. And our macaroni and cheese, again, the cheese clumped up on me. I don't know if it's because I'm using a different type of cheese from Azure Standard. I have to go back and look at my videos, but that's okay, we'll eat it. And the other thing we're gonna have is baked beans. The husband's not home from work yet, so I need to let this sit before I slice into it, and when he gets home, I'll heat up the baked beans in a bowl in the microwave, and then we'll have dinner. I hope you stick around to the next time we get in the kitchen and make a delicious meal. I have the oven preheating to 350 degrees, and I have a pot of water coming up to a boil on the stove. What are we making today? We're gonna make ravioli. We have some homemade ravioli that we have in the freezer. I took one of those bags out. It's actually in the refrigerator freezer waiting for us. If you wanna know how to make homemade ravioli, I'm gonna put a link right there in the iCards, right there. I'll have it in the description below, also on the end cards if I remember to put it there. But homemade ravioli is super easy if you have the ingredients. We had the ingredients, we made ravioli. But first I need to go ahead and start the sausage. We're gonna do a restaurant hack on cooking link sausage. So I have a small cast iron skillet, my package of sweet Italian sausage. We got these on sale at Lidl's. They came in a pack of 12. I divided them into 4 links. That fits my family perfect. Put them in vacuum seal bags. Took these out of the freezer this morning, so they're nice and thawed. I'm going to add some water. Just about halfway up the Italian sausage. I'm going to put this in the oven, and we're going to bake this until it's starting to turn brown. We'll flip them and let them continue to cook. That way we don't have to babysit it on the stove, and we don't have to worry about splatter. In the oven, and then we have our homemade marinara sauce and some Parmesan cheese. And I also have a bag of our cheese-filled raviolis. Our water is boiling. Best way to season your pasta is to season the boiling water. So I'm gonna put 2 good pinches of salt. And now I'm going to add the ravioli. I want to give that a toss just to make sure they're not sticking together. And we're just going to cook that for about 5 to 7 minutes. We're not going to cook it very long. We just want to make sure the pasta itself is done, and then the ingredients inside will be nice and warm. Now, if you're from my generation or earlier, we were told to put a little bit of olive oil, well, we used to use vegetable oil, in our pasta water. That helps the pasta from sticking together. That's a no-no. Don't do that anymore. Because when you're oiling your pasta, you're prohibiting the pasta sauce to actually adhere to that pasta. Pasta has starch because it's made with flour, and you want that starch still left on the pasta and not inhibited by oils, so that when we put our pasta sauce on there, it'll cling to that pasta and it won't wash off. So if you're old school and you put oil in your water when you're making pasta, stop doing that. It'll make a big difference in the flavor of your pasta with your sauce. Just go ahead and give it a gentle stir, just so they're not sticking together. I think they're done, but I want to check it. So you want to just pinch the area where it's sealed, and if it's soft, it's ready. Don't think so. I'm gonna give it another minute or two. But they've floated to the top, which is a good thing. In about a minute or two, we can strain it. Still waiting on the sausage. It's been in the oven for 20 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off. I have the pasta strainer in the sink. I do want to stop it from cooking, so I'm gonna put it in a bowl. And I'm gonna add cold water. We'll set that aside, and once the sausage is ready, we can move on to the next step. So the sausage has been in the oven for 25 minutes. I do want to give them a flip and let them cook for about another 20 minutes. Then we can build our sauce and put the raviolis in. So the sausage are good. I increased the oven to 400 degrees because we're going to be making flatbread. Let's remove the sausage. And while the oven is heating up, I'm putting a large cast iron skillet in the oven to warm up also. Now the sausage, I do want to slice them. So I have the pot that we cooked the raviolis in. Didn't even bother washing it, but it's okay. In goes the sausage. After we drop them all over the table. I'm gonna turn the burner on medium. The sausage is hot, but the pan is not. So I'm gonna warm the pan up. And I'm going to add a jar of pasta sauce. We're going to warm the sausage and that sauce, and then we can add our drained raviolis, add some Parmesan cheese, and then we're ready to go. So I took the cast iron skillet out of the oven. I'm going to add some olive oil. Just a good swish. Move that around a bit. I had to make bread this morning, so I fed my sourdough starter last night. Actually ended up with 2 jars. But this one, it's still active, but I still want to make bread, and it's usually a discard bread, but we're using this anyway. I'm just going to dump this in here. And this was 400 grams. I started off with 200 grams of starter, added 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. And that gave us 400 grams. I'm going to add some more olive oil on the top, some Italian seasoning, maybe a teaspoon, and about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Back in the oven until it's done. I'll let you know how long that took. But so far, it looks beautiful. Our sauce and our sausage has come up to a boil or a simmer. I don't want it boiling. I want it simmered. We're going to add our raviolis. Now, family, I'm not saying you have to do all the things. You do not. If you have a favorite frozen ravioli at the store that you like, use it. If you have a favorite pasta sauce you enjoy, use it. I like doing the things, and I like showing that the things can be done by the average home cook. Raviolis, super simple, time consuming, but super simple. Marinara sauce, again, time consuming, but super simple. I think the next thing I want to learn how to make is Italian sausage. We know how to make breakfast sausage, but I want to learn how to make Italian sausage. So I'm going to put this on a medium-low. I'm going to put the lid back on, and I'm going to leave it here while we're waiting on the bread. The bread has been in the oven for 13 minutes, so we don't have much longer to go. Let's move the ravioli into this bowl. Trying to make a mess. Get all the goodness out of here. There we go. I'm going to put the remainder of the Parmesan cheese, and this was a 1 cup measure home grated Parmesan cheese. Now I get my Parmesan cheese from Azure Standard, and this is actually a new cheese for us. I've seen other YouTubers try this cheese, so I figured I'd give it a try. It is cheaper per pound than the other cheese I was getting, and it's very good. I'm enjoying it. If you want to see the video from the Azure order from January, I think it was in February. It was purchased at the end of January, but we picked it up beginning of February. I'm going to put that in the link below so you can go check that out. I love Azure Standard for their cheese, for all of their pantry staples. I have bought meat from them, but it's a little pricey, and with the budget we have right now, I'd rather spend that money on other bulk things like my spices, my herbs, my rice, flour, sugar, beans, those things. The ravioli is done. Let's check on that bread. So it's been in the oven for 15 minutes. Oh yeah, that is perfect. Let's go ahead and remove it from this pan. Turn the oven off. And I'm going to cut them into breadsticks. The husband's not home from work, but I don't want y'all to wait for me to taste this. So we're going to try a piece right now. Now that meal came together for me 1 hour, but I'm sure it would be less than that if you didn't have to move a camera from here to there, all the things. But even an hour is not too bad. The raviolis are cooked perfect. They are tender. Smells good. Oh, that is really good. Sausage. And one of our sourdough discard flatbread that we turn into breadsticks. Oh, family, that is so good. I have a lot of videos out there about sourdough bread, making sweet things, savory things, using discards for crackers, cereal, flatbread, breadsticks. We even made pizza one time with it. So if you're interested in sourdough bread, if you don't follow this channel, follow other channels on how to start sourdough starter, keep it alive, feed it, what to do with the discard if you don't make enough bread. I have a video out there on bulk making the sourdough dough and keep it in the refrigerator and baking bread throughout the week. And then you can store your fed sourdough starter in the refrigerator for up to 5 days without having to worry about discard or feeding it or anything like that. So go check out the videos on all things sourdough on my channel or other channels. It's fine. So I'm just going to wait for the husband to get home, and then we're going to sit down and have dinner. And then later today, we're actually going to prep tomorrow's dinner so we can get that going. That's going to be an easy crock pot dish. Dinner tonight was delicious. The ravioli with the sausage and that sourdough discard breadsticks we made, so yummy. Before I go to bed, I do want to get started on tomorrow's dinner. So I weighed out a pound of split green peas. I rinsed those off. I'm gonna let them sit here and drain. I have a pack of frozen onions. That's a cup of carrots, a cup of celery, 2 little pucks of garlic. We're going to take care of that in a minute, plus a quart-size chicken broth. This is ham we had left over from Christmas. I removed all the meat from the bones, putting them in like portion-size vacuum seal bags, stuck it in the freezer. I took this out early this morning. I do want to just give it a little chop so it actually fit on a spoon when we're ready to eat. This ham smells so good. Okay, perfect. Let me wash my hands and we're going to move over to the stove. So I got the standard size stainless steel skillet on the stove. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. We'll let that heat up. And you'll know your oil is hot and your pan is hot when you can start seeing it shimmer and move around. And it becomes a little bit more fluid. I'm going to add onions. Now you can use fresh onions if you want, but I enjoy having frozen onions diced and ready to go. I'm just going to cook that for about 5 minutes. It's been about 3 minutes. All the water from those frozen onions have evaporated. I'm going to add a little salt and a little pepper. And now I'm going to add garlic. And if you were using fresh garlic, just about 2 or 3 garlic cloves. If you don't like garlic, leave it out. It's okay. I'm just going to cook that for 1 minute. You can start smelling the onions and the garlic. It smells so good. And now I'm going to add this celery and carrots. And you can see we got some more water in here from the frozen celery and carrots. So I'm just going to cook that until that water evaporates. And then we can start sauteing the vegetables. Now while we're working on that, we can move to the crock pot. We can add our rinsed split peas, the ham, a quart-sized jar of chicken broth, and a quart of water. I'm going to add 1 bay leaf, a pinch of pepper, a pinch and a half of salt. So we have rosemary. I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon. And now we just have to wait on those vegetables. I'm going to cook this for about another 5 minutes until this water evaporates, or the majority of the water to evaporate. Now we're ready to dump our vegetables in. I'm gonna put the lid on. I have it on low heat and I have it set for 4 hours. So the crock pot is gonna cook for 4 hours and it'll go to warm and it'll stay at warm and we'll take care of that in the morning. It will be fine on warm for the remainder of the night. Dinner today was delicious. I think I want to have to cook breakfast tomorrow, and then we already got dinner going. Very productive day. Y'all have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow. So we're going to make breakfast today. We're going to have pancakes and bacon. I put one of our frozen half-pound of bacon that we keep in the freezer. Took it out of the freezer yesterday. Put it in the oven this morning, 400 degrees, 30 minutes. We got perfect bacon. But as for the pancakes, I have 1 1/4 cup of milk. I'm going to add 1 egg. Whisk that together. Set that aside. Now in this mixing bowl, we need 1 1/2 cups of flour, 3 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar. Whisk the dry ingredients together and add the wet ingredients. Perfect. Let's move over to the stove. So I have the cast iron griddle on the stove. I have it on medium heat. I want to get that nice and hot. Got about 1/2 teaspoon of butter. We want to make sure this griddle is nice and hot before we add any pancakes to it. All right, let's do a testing. So I'm just going to put a little bit right here. That little pancake is going to tell us if our griddle's ready to go. You'll start seeing little bubbles forming on the top. And when the top is almost completely dry, that's when you're going to flip them. All right, that is ready. Let's go ahead and start making some pancakes. So I got them about 4 inches in diameter. If I had to guess, I would say between 1/3 and 1/2 cup. And you'll start seeing bubbles, and then we'll know when it's starting to dry out on the top. That's when we can flip them. Now on my stove, I have 2 burners on. The back burner is always hotter than the front burner. I have the front burner on medium. I have the back burner a little bit past medium, towards the low, but closer to medium. Perfect pancake. I'm gonna let this one cook a little bit longer because I said the front burner is always colder. These are light and fluffy. I'm gonna put another pancake in the back. All right, we can start removing our pancakes. I have a towel. It's a clean dish towel. I'm gonna keep them covered up. That way they stay nice and warm. So I'm just gonna finish these pancakes and then we'll be ready to have breakfast. Make sure you have your coffee, family. And now we have breakfast. So we ended up with 6 pancakes plus a little one, which is perfect. Put some butter. We'll keep these covered up so they stay nice and warm. And here's the bacon we cooked just in the oven, 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. Some maple syrup. And just like that, we have breakfast. It's light and fluffy. It's got some really good flavor. And I thought about making a big batch of the dry ingredients of the pancake mix. On the days that we want to make pancakes, we don't have to pull out the flour, the sugar, baking powder, the salt. We only have to bring out the eggs and the milk. But this is a gallon-sized jar, and I don't know if I want a whole gallon or maybe a half gallon. We have the ingredients. We can do this. All right, so the husband and I are going to sit down and have breakfast. If I decide to make a bulk of pancake mix, I'll bring you that. And that crock pot right there is dinner that we started last night. We're going to get to that pretty soon. So the split pea soup cooked on low for 4 hours, and then it went to warm. I want to go ahead and retrieve that bay leaf. Now you can get a stick blender and blend some of this so it'd be creamy and chunky. I'm not going to worry about that because I have the ham in here and I don't want to puree the ham. We do need to taste it for seasoning. Family, that is perfect. It's not the prettiest thing on earth. It's that split pea soup green, but it is so flavorful. The split peas have fallen apart, nice and tender. The soup itself is seasoned perfect. But on my personal bowl, I do want to add just a little bit of pepper and just a small pinch of salt. And I made another loaf of sourdough bread. Once that cools off and I can cut into it, I'll toast some and then have that as my dipping bread for this soup. Family, you ready? That is the right amount of seasoning. Perfect amount of ham. Family, this is really good. Now this should be enough for the husband and I to have for dinner tonight, plus lunch tomorrow. So we did 3 dinners. We had a meatloaf, macaroni and cheese. That didn't turn out so great, but we still ate it, and some baked beans. We had some homemade raviolis with a homemade canned pasta sauce with Italian sausage. We made a split pea soup in the crock pot. It was so delicious. I'm still eating on that during lunch. And for breakfast, we had another baked French toast, but this time we added sausage in the French toast, and we had pancakes and bacon. I hope you found value in this video. I hope this inspires you to get in your kitchen, make things homemade, make things from scratch. If you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe. I will absolutely love to have you part of the Grammy family. In this kitchen, we try to make all of our meals from scratch with real ingredients. We don't do prepackaged anything. We don't have artificial flavor, natural flavoring. We have real food, real flavoring. So until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Bye, family. Breakfast was delicious. We have 3 pancakes left and 4 or 5 pieces of bacon left. I have the pancakes in this Ziploc bag with the bacon separated with parchment paper. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator, and now the husband has breakfast tomorrow. So I decided I want to go ahead and make a big batch of pancake mix, everything but the milk and the eggs. But I need to weigh out one batch so I know how much each batch needs to be, and I'm going to put as much in this jar as I can. I'm thinking 4 or 5 recipes because I don't think I need more than that. So come on a little closer, let's get all the ingredients together. So I have the kitchen scale with the large mixing bowl. I'm going to tear it out to 0 in grams. So the weight of the bowl has been zeroed out so we can just weigh the ingredients. So I'm going to put in 1 recipe in this bowl. So I have 1.5 cups of flour. We need 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder. A half a teaspoon of salt. And we need a tablespoon of sugar. This is a half tablespoon measure. So I'll put 2 in here. So that comes up to 263 grams. So now we know that 1 recipe is 263 grams. We can add the other things we need in here to bulk this recipe. So we already have 1 recipe in here. I am going to add 4 more recipes. So we need to add 6 cups of flour. For the baking powder, we need 1/4 cup plus 2 teaspoons. Salt, we need 2 teaspoons. And sugar, we need 1/4 cup. I'm going to make sure everything gets whisked together, well combined and incorporate, so that when we scoop it out of our jar and we weigh out the 263 grams, we know we have all the ingredients in each serving. We do enjoy pancakes. We don't buy boxed pancake mix, you know, the one that's only add water. So in order for me to make pancakes, I have to bring out the flour, the sugar, the baking powder, the salt, the milk, the eggs, all the things. Having our own pre-mixed pancake mix in the morning that we want pancakes, so I have to weigh out 263 grams of this mix, add 1.25 cup of milk, 1 egg, and any additions we want to add to it. We want to make blueberry pancakes, we'll add blueberries. We want chocolate chip pancakes, we'll add chocolate chips. If we want banana pancakes, we'll add bananas. If you want to make it cinnamon and vanilla, add a little bit of cinnamon, add a little bit of vanilla. Possibilities are endless. But now that we already have a homemade pre-mixed pancake mix, the days we want pancakes will just be easier. That was super simple. And it's ingredients we already have in the house. We always have flour. We always have sugar. We have baking powder. We have salt. We always have milk, eggs. We have the things, but all the things are right there.